DC here. Hi guys and gals. Well, it is Wednesday. At last it is hump day. Oh, just yeah, so I'm doing my Veda installment for today again. Now the subject is something like talk about your love or an ex, and it said be nice. Well, I've talked about Mrs. DC a few times in the last few weeks, so I won't start talking about her again. And it's kind of difficult to talk about an ex because actually there isn't really one, because if you think she was my first girlfriend, and that's 47 years ago. So but what I can talk about is that when I was 15, we were all these I was going to say a group of boys that were kind of, thinking about girls. And I had the chance to have, since we lived right beside the church, and there was a church hall, and we were good friends with the priest at the time, I had asked him if we could make a party actually in one of the halls. And he had accepted. He knew my parents were going to be there and chaperone and so on. So he had no real problem with that. He didn't show up though, but he knew my parents were going to be there. So the guys, we were all excited because we thought like, hey, we're going to be able to get a bunch of girls coming, Well, it was a lot more complicated than we thought. One of my good friends, he was really hot on one girl that lived in the village where I was. Her dad was a taxi driver. That's all I remember actually about her dad. But and she was pretty good looking. For her age, she was, so to say, well built. And so we managed to invite her, but then it was so funny because he was getting really really worried and scared, like, what am I going to do, And then there was one of my cousins that was invited. Yeah, the cousin was maybe a year younger than I was, and one of the other guys was really hot on her. And I thought, like, okay, I knew a few girls that I wanted to invite. And by the way, I didn't even know Mrs. DC then, so there wasn't a question of inviting her. And every time I'd ask someone, one of them said, well, that she had a boyfriend. I didn't know that, so no. Then there was another one who said, I have to ask my mom. And her mom said, no, you're too young. Then there was another one, which I asked, and she said yes right off the bat. She was, and I didn't know her very well actually, but then she found out that one of the other girls had been asked before her. Oh, and she said, as much as I'd want to go, if I'm not first, no. Okay. We did stay friends after, but I hurt her feelings really bad. And yeah, that was it. I mean, so I finally was the one who was organizing the party, but didn't have anybody. We had to invite my neighbor, and I ended up having to dance with her, and albeit I didn't really want to, but the boy she wanted to ask wasn't able to come. So anyway, that all led up though to a few weeks after that. There was the party that she made, so my neighbor, and I was invited, I guess because I invited her, and it would have been a blind date, not Mrs. DC, but another girl that I knew who she was without knowing her. I mean, they told me her name, I knew who she was. And she didn't show up. She couldn't show up on that day, and that's how I ended up meeting Mrs. DC. Mrs. DC stood in for the other girl on the last minute. You know something, if I'd been Mrs. DC, I don't think I would have gone. But anyway, I'm very, very glad that she did. So, yeah, that's about talking about, I can almost say, it's not exes, but it's like girls that I hoped would have been, girlfriends, and ended up never being. Having said that, though, it was really amusing because my friends really tried as hard as they could. Well, one actually got kind of close to my cousin, but never really went out with her. And the guy who was really hoping, you know, I was going to say to have a home run, he didn't even make it to first base. So it was quite amusing, actually. But, you know, when you're 15, hormones kick in. Then following that party where I met Mrs. DC, though, my mom organized a real sweet 16 birthday party for me, because I wasn't quite 16 when I met Mrs. DC. A few weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks before my actual 16th birthday. And I posted a picture of that. That's the first picture when we're actually of us two, because there wasn't a picture in the first party. So yeah, so that's it. So that'll be my video for this one, for this Veda installment. So I'll be DC signing off. I'm going to have my lunch now, and if sometimes you're wondering why I'm looking that way, it's because I'm picking up my little remote. Okay, so that's DC signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.